Hey, fourth graders. So we finished last time where he had just fallen, and we left on this page right here. The next page we start with is chapter 2, a poem. Hole in the wall, schmole in the wall. What do you mean there's a troll in the wall? I've been to a shopping mall and a bathroom stall. Who cares about a stupid hole in the wall? Holy Swiss cheesecake! There really is a hole in the wall. Do not go through the hole in the wall. Woo! Chapter 3 already? Mr. Jenkinson, the grouchy troll. Evan escaped the washing machine monster by mere inches. He knew that he'd never make it to the steps in time, so his only chance of escape was the big, gaping hole between the freezer and the junk shelf, the very same hole that was usually covered by a steel grate, but which had conveniently fallen off, providing him with an escape route, a hole in the wall. Aha! Evan cried victoriously. I'll just slip into the hole in the wall. Nothing bad or strange can happen to me in there. Soon Evan was crawling through the dirty, smelly, disgusting tunnel on his belly. His clothes were getting filthy, which would not make Mother happy. Evan assumed she would rather have him dirty than gobbled up for lunch by a monster. Everything is hunky-dory, Evan told himself. Father will come looking for me soon, so I'll just stay right here. Evan was safe for now, safe and sound, hidden from all dangerous mechanical monsters that may or may not be a figment of his wild imagination. Father will come and rescue me any minute now. Evan thought out loud, which is pretty much the same as saying it out loud. Basement monsters never attack adults. Every kid knows that. It's against the rules. Evan waited in the dark, creepy, cramped tunnel for what felt like a very long time. Soon he began to doubt whether he was going to be rescued after all. He might have to rescue himself. What is this weird place anyway, he asked no one in particular, and how come I've never noticed it before? Evan had never noticed this tunnel before. He also thought it was kind of weird. I just said that. Evan shouted at the strange voice that came out of nowhere. Huh? Oh, sorry, said the storyteller guy. Didn't mean to interrupt your conversation with yourself. Let's go back to the story, shall we? Okay, fine, Evan said as he rolled his eyes. Hurry up, will ya? This place is kinda dark and spooky, suggested the storyteller guy. You got it. Hole in the wall continues on the next page. Continued. After a little while longer of nothing happening, just to keep the story moving along, Evan thought he heard some noises coming from the far end of the spooky tunnel. It was difficult to tell just exactly what the noise was, but if he had to make a guess, he would have guessed it was a 6-foot tall troll rummaging through a cupboard. Hello, Evan said. Is anyone there? All of a sudden, a grotesque green hand with long, dirty fingernails came shooting out of the darkness. The scaly green fingers wrapped around Evan's ankle and began to drag him deeper into the tunnel. Hey, let go! Evan yelled at the hand, but meaning to yell at whatever creature the hand belonged to, he had kicked his foot with his other foot, if that makes any sense, and tried to crawl back through the tunnel into the basement. This was no good either, since at the other end was the washing machine monster waiting to chew him up and spit out the bones. What should I do? Evan asked, looking to the audience for help. I'll be in danger no matter which way I go. Isn't the suspense killer? If it was a choice between a washing machine monster that may or may not be real and a creature with scaly green claw hands with dirty fingernails, Evan thought he would much rather take his chances with the washing machine monster. Suddenly, with surprisingly suddenness, Evan was pulled clear through the tunnel by The long, green, scaly arm. He cried out in pain after he emerged from the tunnel, where he fell several feet and landed on his bottom side. Evan was in somebody's kitchen. Not sure. Scary cave was with a not some scary cave with a huge pile of kid skeletons like he'd imagined, but a regular old kitchen. There were cupboards, shelves, a pantry, a stove, and a refrigerator with pictures of baby trolls on it. It looked like a regular old boring kitchen, except for the hideous troll standing in it. Ah! Evan screamed, but then stopped screaming when the hideous troll screamed at him to stop screaming, if that makes any sense. Oh, stop your screaming, said the troll, glaring at him with his arms crossed. You're giving me a headache. Besides, you landed on your nice cushy bottom, so no harm done. Evan's previous guess was very close, but not entirely accurate. It was not a 6-foot troll rummaging through a cupboard that he'd heard after all. It was a 7-foot troll that he'd heard rummaging through a cupboard, and this troll did not look happy. This troll looked disgruntled and mean and cranky and cantankerous and every other word you could think of that means exactly the same thing. Evan stood up and stared the troll down while having to look up to meet his eyes. Who are you? The troll demanded. What are you doing in my cupboard? You're one of the king's spies, aren't you? Well, you just tell that chubby little fellow that I've paid my taxes in full. Evan had no idea what the troll was talking about. He knew nothing about kings or spies or taxes. Who am I? Evan said, trying not to show any fear. Who are you? Normally, if he'd saw a real live troll, he would have been scared out of his mind. However, it was hard to be scared of a troll that looked exactly like his grouchy neighbor, Mr. Jenkins. Of course, Mr. Jenkins didn't have green skin, yellow eyes, and a mouth full of pointy teeth. Other than these few minor differences, this ugly creature looked pretty much the same as Mr. Jenkins, the meanest neighbor on the whole block who kept every ball that ever landed in his front yard. I'm Mr. Jenkinson, said the troll, who looked like Mr. Jenkins. And you are not a rice cake. I was digging through the cupboard and looking for those awful rice cakes that Mrs. Jenkinson makes me eat. Instead of a disgusting, tasteless rice cake, I found a disgusting, tasteless child. Who are you? Where did you come from? And what were you doing in my cupboard? My name is Evan Jacobson, Evan told the troll. And what do you mean, where did I come from? I came from the tunnel you just pulled me out of. Mr. Jacobson regarded Evan for a moment. Then he scratched his large, scaly head. He looked up at the cupboard, then back down at Evan. What tunnel? Mr. Jacobson asked. You weren't in any tunnel, you twerp. You were in my cupboard. You were trying to steal my rice cakes. Thief! Thief! I'm not a thief, Evan said. I'll show you what tunnel I'm talking about. Then he climbed up onto the countertop. The tunnel, that's right. There was no tunnel. There was only a cupboard filled with high-fiber cereal, spices, and half-eaten bag of rice cakes. Pushed off to one side, the half-eaten bag of rice cakes fell onto the counter at Evan's feet. Thief! Mr. Jacobson shouted. Rice cake stealer in my kitchen! Police! SWAT team! Help! I am not trying to steal your stupid rice cakes, Evan told him as he jumped down off the counter. He handed the package of low-calorie, low-fat rice cakes to the troll. Here. But, are you sure you don't want to steal them? Mr. Jacobson waved the rice cakes in Evan's face. I really wouldn't mind letting you steal them. They taste awful. Go on, take them. I'll just tell Mrs. Jacobson that I ate them all. She'll be happy with me. She'll make me a nice, juicy steak dinner with garlic toast and baked potato covered in butter and sour cream. Mr. Jenkinson licked his scaly lips and rubbed his huge belly just thinking of it. Listen up, Mr. Troll person, or whatever your name is. Evan folded his arms and tried to act tough, even though he barely came up to the troll's huge thunder thighs. I don't want your stupid rice cakes, okay? My mother makes my father eat those nasty things because she says he's getting a big fat jiggly belly just like yours. Mr. Jenkinson looked ashamed. He reached down and wiggled his jiggly stomach. I want to go home, Evan demanded. Now, if you don't mind. I do not have a big fat jiggly belly, Mr. Jenkinson roared, suddenly becoming very upset and speaking in capital letters. I grew too fast when I was young and I can't exercise because I have allergies, so there. Evan refused to believe him. This only infuriated the dieting troll even more. Listen up, you little brat, Mr. Jenkinson said, his green face turning red with anger. If Mrs. Jenkinson hadn't put me on a diet, I would eat you right now, dipped in barbecue sauce. Otherwise, you would taste disgusting. But since she'll be home from the grocery store any minute, she would probably catch me green-handed. Then she'll make me stay on this terrible diet even longer. And since your tunnel, the one you claim exists, doesn't exist any longer, I'm afraid it's time for you to leave. Now, if you don't mind. But I have nowhere to go, Evan protested. I was just in my basement. Now I'm in your weird world, and I can't get back. Not my problem, Mr. Jenkinson said, shooing Evan out of the kitchen with a broom. Out, out, out! Evan was pushed aside out the front door. And don't come back, Mr. Jenkinson shouted before slamming the door. Then he stuck his fat head out the side window and yelled, If you kick a ball into my yard, I'm keeping it. Evan stuck his tongue out at the grumpy troll. Mr. Jenkinson returned the gesture. Only his tongue was purple, 2 feet long, and pronged like a fork. Just terrific, Evan said, brushing himself off. I'm all dirty. I haven't finished my chores, and Troll just kicked me out of his house for stealing his rice cakes. What else could go wrong? That's one question Evan should not have asked. What? Why not? Evan asked the strained voice that appeared out of nowhere a second time. Why shouldn't I have asked the question? Oh, great, it's you again. Huh? What? Said the storyteller guy. Are you talking to me? Of course I'm talking to you, Evan shouted. Will you please stop interrupting the flow of the story and get on with it? Even though it was early in the story, Evan was already super annoyed with the storyteller guy for all the interruptions. Hurry up and finish this silly adventure so I can go home. Okay, said the storyteller guy. Let's continue, shall we?